Political discourse in today's world is no longer about debating policy or solutions to societal problems. It's about ideology, identity, and the manipulation of narratives. Politicians are no longer elected to represent us in a democracy. They are positioned as avatars of belief systems that polarize rather than unify. In the midst of this, the real question is, how much longer will we continue to allow the political game to be dictated by opportunists who thrive on division, personal gain, and manufactured outrage? It's time to demand accountability, integrity, and above all, a shift toward true representation that doesn't cater to the loudest voices, but to the silent majority, the ones who are ignored in the chaos of the ideological storm. To understand the magnitude of the crisis we face, look no further than the daily spectacle of political theater. Each day, a new scandal, a new soundbite, or a new headline emerges, all carefully crafted to distract us from the true nature of our political system's failures. Take the ongoing culture wars, for example, issues designed to divide, to distract, to turn communities against each other, while the real issues, jobs, healthcare, education, are left on the back burner. These culture wars are nothing more than smokescreens, distractions for those in power to solidify their base by crafting enemies and selling fear. It's as though our political leaders no longer view governance as a means to an end, but as an end in itself, sustaining their power at the expense of everything else. The left and the right, once supposed representatives of broad, nuanced ideologies, have become caricatures of their former selves. The left has become the moral arbiter of society, pushing an agenda that preaches inclusivity while practicing exclusion. The right has become a bastion for resistance, fighting progress under the guise of tradition. Both sides have lost their way. What's worse is that these ideologies are not born out of necessity, but out of the need for political survival, manipulating their followers with a narrative of victimhood and rebellion against an ever-elusive enemy. Both sides focus on their own survival, their own brands, more than the country's. At the heart of this failure is the erosion of genuine discourse. Politicians no longer engage in healthy debate about ideas, but in personal attacks and ideological warfare. The media, too, has been complicit, transforming into a breeding ground for sensationalism and bias. News outlets no longer report facts, they serve as platforms to amplify polarizing opinions. The result? A public that is deeply misinformed, polarized, and unaware of the real consequences of their elected officials' actions. This fragmentation is by design. It's much easier to control a populace that can no longer agree on the basic facts of reality. Furthermore, this erosion of truth has led to a political class that feels detached from the very people they claim to represent. How many times have we seen leaders give speeches about policies that sound nice on paper but are completely out of touch with the struggles of everyday people? Politicians talk about creating jobs in abstract terms, without addressing the systemic issues that have gutted the working class. They talk about health care, yet fail to grasp that access to basic services is a luxury for many in this country. They speak of education, but what they fail to understand is that the majority of children in this country are not receiving an education that will set them up for a competitive future. This isn't to say that there aren't good politicians out there. There are. But they are drowned out by the noise. The truth is, in today's politics, integrity is an endangered species. To rise to the top, you don't need to be competent. You need to be loud, polarizing, and above all, marketable. The public no longer rewards statesmanship. They reward performance. Political maneuvering has become a business, and the people, nothing more than consumers. Take a step back, and the question becomes, when did governance become so detached from the basic function it was meant to serve? When did politicians stop being public servants and begin seeing themselves as celebrities, entitled to their position by sheer force of will, rather than merit or purpose? This is not democracy. This is a circus. And the worst part is, most of us keep buying tickets. It's time to reject the notion that politics is something we should watch like a spectator sport. The public must demand more than empty promises and viral moments. We need to insist on policies that serve real needs, not personal ambitions. Politicians must be held accountable, not for how many retweets they get, but for how many families are able to feed their children, how many young people can find a job that supports their future, how many seniors can retire with dignity. This does not mean abandoning political ideologies, but demanding that they evolve to reflect the complexities of the world we live in. It's time to stop treating political parties as tribes and start looking at them as vehicles for problem-solving. It's time to expect more than slogans, more than soundbites, more than empty gestures. We need politicians who understand that their job is not to fan the flames of division, but to bring us together to solve real problems. For too long, we've allowed the political system to run on autopilot. But if we continue to allow it to operate without genuine oversight, without pressure for change, we will only deepen the chasm of division, disillusionment, and disengagement that threatens to tear apart the very fabric of our society. It's time for a reckoning, time to demand more from the people who claim to represent us, time to challenge the system that has failed us. The question is no longer whether we need change, it's how long we are willing to tolerate the status quo before we do something about it.